Got
Let me
the
just
red
double
light
check.
on top?
Hey, well, yes, but let me just make sure I can see it on the other side because there's always a slight delay. Hang on a second. All right, here we go. Okay, cool.
You're on?
So, yes. All right, hang on. Let me just get a little more comfortable. All right. Hey, guys. Welcome to my regular 8:15 Wednesday night live stream. Today we have Oskar Zim. Introduce yourself, Oskar, and explain to us why we can't see you.
It's really just for security. The books that I've written are very controversial, and I'm just would prefer that people didn't know my face. I've got a job. I'm lucky I don't have any family, but I have to be out in public, and I just don't want that level of security. So I'd just rather not have the light on, but can still I can move my head around.
There's no visuals. You have a fan. You don't have air conditioning in your home, but that's okay.
No, I don't need it. So that's partly sort of a nice segue into the other part. Zimmerman is not my real name, but it's a classic story that if you just do a Google search for the Zimmerman telegram, middle of World War One, Britain and Germany are at war, but America is not in the war yet. But America is sending heaps of ships full of supplies to the British as support, but no troops. And so the Germans say, we have to stop this. We need to weaken Britain by sinking all their supply ships by submarines. That's going to piss the Americans off. And America is likely to come into the war and beat us. So what the Germans do is they send a telegram to Mexico. And they say, Mexico, we're about to bring the US into the war. We want you to attack from the south and capture Texas, Arizona, and Nevada, and whatever else you can. You just pour your troops across the border and tie up the Americans and keep them occupied in America while we finish off Europe. To do this, they sent the codes through neutral channels, which went through the American embassy in Europe, because America was still neutral at the time. However, the British had electronically tapped those wires and were spying on the Americans, even though they were allies. So the British spy ministry gets this information and goes, holy crap, what do? Do we tell the Americans and warn them that Mexico is about to invade them from the south? But if we do that, then they're going to realise that we've been spying on all of their diplomatic channels, all the while telling them that we're their closest allies. And they've been sending us millions of dollars worth of supplies to fight the Germans. So it's a real moral conundrum, which really strikes at the heart of all spying and governments today, even more so today, because as we know, the Chinese, the Americans, the Russians are all jockeying for economic position. You've got Pakistan, India, the Saudi Arabians and the Qataris all trying their own thing. You've got Indonesia facing off against us, and the Africans are all still being exploited by different people. So the British constantly, we were talking before about Brexit. And there's a lot of people who think that Brexit is going to be a good thing, and I agree. But to say that, the poor Brits have been abused by the Europeans and are the underdog kind of ignores the fact that the British have screwed over a lot of other people in years gone by. And once they do Brexit, they will probably start screwing other people over again. So we've got to be very careful when we label things good guys versus bad guys, especially where governments are concerned. There just aren't any, and everybody's out for themselves, and it's a zero-sum game. There's only a certain amount of pie, and that pie is shrinking. And so in order to stay on top and have the maximum amount of pie and keep your people happy, you've got to make a lot of other people unhappy. To segue in from there, the pie, I mention this in most of my books, the pie is called energy return on energy investment. And that is your fundamental physics equation that runs the whole economy, okay? Energy return on energy investment, as long as that's positive, the world economic engine is growing, and we can make more things, and we can expend energy to build more things. If energy return on energy investment goes negative, it becomes energy sink, and it costs more energy to keep something going. Okay, so when the world's factories were powered by coal and timber, there was a certain amount of energy return, like 3 or 4. When they discovered what crude oil could do, that went up to like 100 to 1. And every equivalent barrel of energy that you invested in production reaped over 100, sometimes 1,000% in what oil could do. It's not only transport, it's chemicals, it's plastic, it's all the industry that those things make. It's the chemical on the inside of wine bottles that stops the wine going off in them. It's wetsuits, it's surfboards, it's cars, it's the asphalt on the roads, it's refrigeration for our food. It costs 14 calories of fossil fuel to deliver every calorie of food to your plate. And at the time, there was 1 billion people on the planet. Now there's 7, heading towards 8. That massive increase in
7 billion.
Something like that. So with this massive increase in oil production since 1950, 1920, that has allowed so much more fertilizer and pesticide and so much more food to be produced and so much more transport and technological advances. And that was fine. And with all of that, the global financial system was created and expanded with debt. And then they invented credit cards and government debt. The Bretton Woods Agreement created the Federal Reserve, and they went off the gold standard, and they went onto this imaginary fiat currency that just blew the debt out of proportion, because every year there was more energy being produced in the world. So why wouldn't we just keep running up this massive credit card? Because there'll always be more energy to create more value to pay it off, won't there?
Well, you would hope.
In 2005, global energy production peaked for light sweet crude oil. That's the most common. Okay, total energy is still going up a bit, but that includes other things like refinery gains, gas equivalents, a whole bunch of other technical things. But basically, the essence of light sweet crude, that's the stuff that has the magic in it. 2005, it stopped going up and it just went stable. And despite billions of dollars invested every year in technology, fracking, horizontal drilling, what they do is they drill in horizontally to the top of the oil well, and then they drill another hole all the way down to the bottom of the oil well. And then they push in nitrogen or seawater into the bottom, and that expands upwards and pushes all the oil up so that it can get sucked out the top. Despite that, it's still stuck around 40 million barrels a day, or 40 billion barrels a day, whatever the figure is. And that's why in 2008 we had the global financial crisis, because the whole thing hit the wall. And the Rudd government gave us all, how much money did they give us? $500, $150, whatever it was, and said go out and spend, because they knew that was the only way to kickstart the economy and get it going. And instead of restructuring the whole thing onto a lower consumption, they just kept kicking the can down the road. And successive governments have just kicked and kicked and kicked the can down the road, tinkering with renewables. But renewables is never going to put fertilizer on the ground. Like solar panels don't create nitrogen fertilizer. It only comes out of the ground. So at some point in the future, there's going to be a really nasty crash, and a lot of people are going to starve to death. That's just inevitable. And the people who run the show, they know this, and they're taking steps to secure themselves at our own expense. So that's why there's this massive push around the world for disarmament, for surveillance, for spying on Facebook, for snooping on us through our Alexas, because they want to know who's causing trouble so they can nip those people in the bud when they whenever the time comes, whenever there's a justification.
Do you think there's an ultimate goal, and this ultimate goal is like that humanity, because there's over 7 billion needs to die, like that do you reckon that there's this agenda to kill off some of the population and that and all of what you're saying somehow is involved with that bigger agenda?
If I'm going to say yes, and I can prove it. If you just go onto
Oh,
Wikipedia and you look up famines in China, okay?
famines in China.
Chinese famines. In the last 100 years, there's been like 5 major famines in China that have killed, I don't know, 500 million people or something, have starved to death in these famines. All of them created by the government. That's just data statistics. So one of them was because the guy in charge of the ministry decided that to prevent the birds from eating the seed on the ground, you needed to plough the seed a metre below ground. So they dug these massive ditches to plant their seeds in, and then, of course, they never sprouted because they were too far away from the surface. Another time they said, we need to kill all the birds that eat the seeds. So all the Chinese went out and killed all the birds they could. Well, guess what? All of the rats and caterpillars that the birds used to eat now went crazy and ate all the crops. So these yeah, and all the people starved to death. Like, there was empty villages where there was nobody alive just because there was no food to be eaten. And that's not even in a time of war. You know, there's stories of the Ukrainians when the Russians and the Germans came through in World War II. All the trees in the forest had no bark on them up to waist high because the people were crawling through the forest, stripping the bark off the trees. They couldn't stand up. They were too weak. But they would strip the lower bark off the trees and eat it to try and get some nutrients because there was nothing else to eat. And you imagine in the cities what's going to happen if there's no food in the shelves because there's no fuel for the trucks to run. And, you know, dad comes home and the kids are crying and mum says, your kids are hungry. What are you going to do about it? He's going to go, I'm going to go out and find some food for you guys. And I don't care what it takes, I'm going to get it. And so he's going to go next door and knock on your door. What are you going to do? The guy's desperate. Desperate people do desperate things. So I completely agree. There is a massive problem coming. I'm not sure there's any solutions. I talk about some of them in the books, most of them sort of tongue in cheek, because really the only way, nobody's going to get out of this on their own. The only way to get any sort of security is in a community, a group of people who are cooperating, sharing their skills, tolerating each other's. Sorry?
Like a self-sufficient commune or something?
Or just the people in your street. A self-sufficient commune is going to be bait for raiders who roam around the countryside stealing from people. You know, there's no single way that's going to survive. There's going to have to be cooperation, trading. Look at what Europe was like, I don't know, after the fall of the Roman Empire and before the Renaissance. Okay, so we're talking, Leonardo da Vinci. All right, you've got cities that are well defended with mercenary armies, trading between warring city-states who are in a continuous state of jockeying for position, but it's not outright war. You might have an insult given, like Romeo and Juliet, where you have a civil war between two parties, but everybody else is kind of just going on their business, because if one lot of people overstep the boundary, they know they're going to get a smack in the face from the mercenaries from the other town. So there's books written, there's any kind of scenarios you can go through, but the key thing is that our whole system, the electric grid, the financial system, the water supply system, is ridiculously vulnerable. And there's any type of black swan event that can happen that would knock them off. And when seconds count, the police are minutes away. So it's not fear mongering. It's just that's the reality of what's coming down the track. And to prepare is what a responsible adult does. And once you get past the shock of, oh my gosh, I was raised to believe that the government would always protect me. Once you realize that that's a lie, you can then step forward and say, okay, well, now what do I need to do to provide for my security? So that's in a nutshell really where I'm trying to get at with this whole personal security versus totalitarian government, and particularly in Australia, we're programmed so heavily that the government's going to look after us, and it just ain't so. Yeah,
Can I offer an alternative? This is me being a little bit silly, but the answer to Australia's problems is in this man.
It's upside down.
Sorry.
That's better. Is it?
There we go.
Ricardo Bossi.
Do you know who he is?
No, I've never seen that before.
Okay.
But I'm going to write that down. That looks good. The five pillars.
Yeah.
5 pillars of real leadership. Okay, greatness awaits you.
Yeah, and he signed it.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah, I saw him the other day. I'm so
great.
I'm such a giddy little schoolgirl. I'm like, oh, I know Ricardo Bossi. No, but by the way, our we've got 31 viewers. So we're doing pretty good.
Awesome.
Yeah, so that's good. Let's talk about the subject matter that I publicized, and it's about guns, gun control, and Port Arthur. Now, you wrote a book on Port Arthur, yeah?
I did.
All right, so rather than ask you any questions, just give us a rundown on your analysis of that scenario. Yeah, go ahead. I'll try not to. I'll try not to.
That's fine. Port Arthur was a defining moment in Australian history, much like 9/11 was, or the JFK assassination. It was a traumatic event. Like everybody else, I believed the official story that was on TV and just didn't really bother me. He was in jail, poor people, the victims and their families. Okay, that's. I'm glad it didn't happen to me. And then I don't know what it was. It was quite some time later. I'd read various things that didn't make sense. The usual questions about things that didn't add up. And I thought to myself, once I'd started reading into it, is that still on?
You're talking to me?
It's the screen's changed. That's all. Oh, okay. That's
I'm just playing around with it. Keep talking. Yeah. Sorry, I didn't mean to distract you. Go ahead. I got
a hold of a couple of books written by McGregor and the other guys, and I got a hold of the witness statements and the police documents and the prison interview transcript from WikiLeaks. Anyway, reading through all of this, there is just so many things that don't match the official story. And so I was thinking to myself, the problem with all of this is it's all painted as a conspiracy theory because the official story has been pushed as believable and everything else is pushed as unbelievable. So maybe I can write a fictional story that is more believable than the official story because it's based on the witness statements and the court documents. So in my book, it is completely fictional, although it does reference the events in there. A lot of the dialogue after the event begins is taken from the witness statements or the recording that the police prosecutor made, that the hostage negotiator, Terry McCarthy, made. So in that sense, I've borrowed from reality in order to build, like you see with on the TV, you see these reenactments or a dramatization. So it's kind of like that. And
I understand.
The key issue at the time that I thought is, why do they pick this guy? Why was he singled out as the patsy? And at the time, I thought, well, we know he travelled around the world. And when he inherited his money, and he used to sit on the plane next to people and just talk at them, and he annoyed a lot of people by sitting on the plane. He said he liked to sit on the planes because people couldn't get away, because if he went up to people in a strange city and just started talking to them, they thought he was an idiot and just walked away. So at least sitting on the plane, he had a captive audience. So in my fictional story, one of the spies has been to Hawaii on holiday and she's flying back to New York, and he is on the plane next to her, and she's already planning some sort of event for gun control, and she is sitting next to this guy and he is just driving her insane, and she realizes I'm going to kill this guy, and I'm going to set him up. And so in the fictional story, that's how they selected him. I've since learned there's a whole lot more to his story, and I've got more information about why it's likely they selected him. It's too detailed to go into now, but basically it involves the Tats Lotto inheritance that his former friend had. So Helen Harvey had the similar mental illness as he did, and they both accepted each other very well. They were a little bit slow, told very funny jokes, had an off sense of humour, but accepted each other without any judgment. So they were friends. She changed her will and left everything to him, and then she died in a car crash. And it's likely that he grabbed the steering wheel, when they were driving along, playing a joke, and ran her into a truck and killed her. I can't prove that, but that's on the balance of probabilities, that's what happened. He'd done it before. So he then inherited all of her property, the farm, the big house, lots of cars, and these shares in Tats Lotto, which at the time was a private company. It was not listed on the stock exchange. There was about 150 people who were the descendants of the founders' employees, and they all made stacks of money from this flow. So they ran the lottery in Tasmania, the government took their cut, and all the profits were just distributed to these families. They didn't have to work. They just bought racehorses and went to the races and invested in other businesses and had their children go to university to become lawyers and then became politicians and ran the show, just like the people who ran Tasmania have been running it for 200 years. It's the same families. They all just run the whole thing. They run the police, the courts, the media, everything. So, and if you want anything done, if you want approval to open a business, or if you want approval to import export, you've got to go to them and say, here's my business plan. And they say, sure, here's our fee for, that's just the way business works. When you've got power, you exercise it. You can't help it. So both Helen's, Harvey's and Martin Bryant's estates were managed by the public trustee. Separate accounts, but both in the same office. And he would go to the public trustee 3 or 4 times a year and get cash that he could then spend for the next month or two. And then he would have to go back. So he couldn't just blow all his money at once, because that's what his parents were concerned about. He's got this big inheritance. It's got to last him his whole life. He can't just blow it because he doesn't understand money. So the public trustee said, boom, put the brakes on. We've got a guardianship order. We'll keep receiving the money and hold it in a bank account, and you can only have whatever it was, $1,000, $5,000 every couple of months so that you can pay your bills. When Martin was convicted of this crime, when he was charged with the crime, the government rushed through legislation that seized those assets, which did 2 things. First of all, it denied him the ability to pay a good lawyer. Now, I'm not a lawyer, but I reckon I could have got him off, or with reasonable doubt, even just on the evidence that we've got. So he was unable to afford a lawyer. He had to rely on the public defender, a guy called Gunston. And Gunston did the best he could, but was up against, you can't imagine the media pressure that Martin Bryant's defence lawyer was up against. Yeah, this guy, the media is just screaming, he's a murderer, he's a psychopath, and you're defending him. Can you imagine what this bloke's kids were getting at school? Your dad's defending Martin Bryant. Yeah, it's just ridiculous. So anyway, he resigned, and they replaced him with a guy called John Avery, who had been on the prosecution. He was a prosecution lawyer, and he, how can the prosecution lawyer become the defense lawyer? You can't just switch sides. But anyway, we're getting off topic. The other thing that happened was
I'm not talking. You're going on tangents. I'm not saying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The estate that was seized was then distributed, in inverted commas, distributed to the victims' families. A fund was set up to pay compensation. And the problem with that is most of it didn't get to the victims' families. There was a massive bureaucratic minefield that was set up to prevent people making claims. And a lot of money went to businesses in Tasmania allegedly because they were affected by the lack of tourism, when in effect they really weren't. It was just people had their hands out and their political friends gave them the money. What I can't get my hands on is the records of what happened to Helen Harvey's estate. Because imagine this, you're in the public trustee and you're got these two accounts. Are you going to give all the money, or are you just going to give the bit that's from Martin's account and leave Helen Harvey's on its own? You've got the ability to do that because you've got the discretion. So if the people who wanted Martin out of the way wanted him to stop him wasting their inheritance, because really it didn't belong to him. It was Helen Harvey's. She was family. But in their minds, if you think this could be up to $40 million, there's a lot of money, and this simpleton is just going to waste it. There's motive there. All I'm saying, follow the money. The first rule of any investigation is follow the money, and there is a gigantic stinking turd around that estate of Helen Harvey. Yeah. Then, just as a little tidbit, if you research the Tats Lotto, in 2005, they floated on the stock exchange, and the shareholders were not really happy because their names were then made public on the public share register. There are a couple of entries, a couple of parcels of shares that are managed by the public trustee in that register. The Victorian government allowed them to run gaming machines in Victoria and charged them a license fee. I can't remember the amount. I think it was either $1,000 or $1. And you can look it up on the internet. The Victorian media went pretty berserk and accused the government of corruption because, are you kidding? You're letting this private company run all of this gambling and you're only charging them like a pittance? We need more money for our own coffers. Imagine how many roads and hospitals that the gambling taxes could fund, and you're giving it away. Like, there's obviously political corruption between Hobart and Melbourne. That's just apparent for anyone to see. So my book is not supposed to be taken.
Keep going.
The book's not supposed to be taken literally. All it is a possible explanation that ties together the actual events far more closely than what the official story does. If you follow me on Facebook, you'll see I regularly post articles about the different questions that come up. You've got the soap powder decoy, you've got the naked woman running around screaming in the backyard of Seascape, witnessed by the police. You've got the morgue truck that was very convenient. You've got the surgeon seminar and the journalist seminar. There was 50 surgeons and 700 journalists in Hobart at the perfect time for seminars. Why not Melbourne or Sydney? Both of those are easy to travel to and have bigger population centres, more arts. Why would you put on a surgery and a journalist conference in Hobart on a Sunday? Then the top 10 managers of Port Arthur were called away on the Sunday morning for a seminar 2 hours up the coast that started at just the time the shooting happened. It neatly got them out of the way of danger. And there's a litany of other very strange things. There was 3 shots fired at 6:30 p.m. inside the park when Bryant was under siege inside Seascape, 2 kilometres up the road. Who fired those shots? It's never been. There's 3 witness statements that say we were terrified and we ran back inside and shut the door because we thought there was a shooter out there. Never followed up. The book just serves as a reasonable explanation for what actually happened, and hopefully is a catalyst for people to ask more questions.
Well, actually, someone in the chat made a good reference. What are your thoughts on saying, if someone says that John Howard did Port Arthur, that he's responsible for it? What is your response to that statement?
My response is simply based on the logistics and the technicalities, right? This was planned badly, but well in advance. This was not an overnight thing. And John Howard had only been elected for about 6 weeks beforehand. So I personally do not think he planned it. but he's definitely responsible for A, helping to cover it up, and B, blackmailing the states into accepting what's now called the National Firearms Agreement. So that's the federal document that guides how the states are supposed to manage firearms legislation. So Queensland and Victoria and Western Australia were very strongly against registration. And the statistics they had proved that it's going to be a waste of money, it's going to cost billions of dollars to administer, and you're never going to be able to track the criminal guns because they're either going to import them alongside the illegal drugs that they import, or they're going to manufacture them in a backyard shed with a lathe. And so Queensland, Victoria, and Western Australia were real. Like, those governments aren't big governments at the time. 1996, they didn't have billions of dollars to waste on a registry that's not going to solve any crimes. So they pushed back against them. They said, we don't want to have to do this.
Yeah.
So he said, fine, I'll withhold GST revenue from you until you do. And he out and out blackmailed the state governments, and they had to give in. They had to say, all right, well, if we're not going to get that revenue, we're stuffed and we have to do it. So it was a grubby little deal that this man did. Now, there's photos of him shooting guns. He had no problem shooting guns himself. He just didn't want you or me to have them. And that's like the worst kind of person. I always wanted to shoot a gun. Yeah, well, you can if you're in New South Wales, you can go to any range and you fill in what's called a P650.
I'm in New South Wales.
Well, if you are you in Sydney or in the regions?
I'm in. Oh, I don't want to say. I'm in the suburbs.
You're in the Sydney general area. Okay. St Mary's.
It's about a 45-minute drive from the Sydney general area.
Yeah. Okay. Well, in
where I currently live.
Okay. Yeah. St Mary's is out near Blacktown. They've got a pistol range, and they'll help you out. And I'm telling you, it is heaps of fun. It is amazing fun, and you just sign the form that says you're a responsible adult and you're not on alcohol. You haven't drunk anything, but you certainly can. But that's the issue is the hypocrisy. The one rule for us, a different rule for you. That really grinds my gears because Australia has always supposed to be very equal. And that's just not on for the government to say, oh no, we can have it, but you can't. That's really, really low. Yeah.
Okay. Can I ask you another question from Margaret? Talk about Sandy Hook, dude. I was just about to ask. One of my commenters wants to know your thoughts on Sandy Hook.
Oh yeah. I'm trying to remember if this was the school.
Hello?
Yeah, this is the school. And they bulldozed the school afterwards.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I thought you.
Yeah, because that's the other thing with Port Arthur, they bulldozed the cafe straight away, so there's no evidence that you can't go and look at it. The same thing with Sandy Hook.
Oh,
I don't know enough about it, but I do know there's a huge amount of questions about it, and to be honest, statistically, it wouldn't surprise me. However, there is another explanation for these things, and it's to do with the SSRI drugs, the selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors, which millions of Americans are on, these opioid antidepressants. And they have really bizarre side effects. There's no telling. Yeah. So two people can take the same pill and have completely separate side effects, regardless if you've already got depression or homicidal thoughts, or you're taking alcohol or orange juice or something else with a preservative in it. So there's a study that's been done that shows all of these mass shooters and spree killers dating back years, and they've all been on these SSRI medications. So I hear what you're saying about Sandy Hook. I don't know enough about it. There's certainly questions about it.
You don't.
Is the government able to do false flag events?
I just asked because Neil wanted to know, and I wanted to
yeah, sure. Is the government able to do false flag events? Absolutely. There's documented false flag events. The Gleichschwitz incident in World War II, the Germans got a whole bunch of prisoners, took them to a radio station on the border with Poland. Hello?
Yeah. Sorry, where did you get that? Did you just read a question from the comments?
No. No, I'm not looking at the comments.
Hello?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Hello?
Yeah, I'm here. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Sorry, never mind. Yeah, okay, good. Keep going. I didn't
Yeah.
mean to interrupt. I think that was...
No, that's all right. So as their justification for invading Poland, the Germans set up this attack on a radio station, shot these prisoners, dressed them in Polish army uniforms, and then brought the cameras out and said, oh, look, the Polish army has attacked our radio station. It's like, that's just documented. The Gulf of Tonkin incident, Operation Northwoods, they're just some I can name off the top of my head. So there's certainly people who are able to do this, and they have got no problem with killing civilians. I'm no doubt of that. But specifically Sandy Hook, I don't know. Sorry, I don't know enough about it.
That's all right. Can I ask you questions from a Facebook commenter?
Sure.
So this is Jason Catugno. So Jason Catugno, if you're watching, I don't know if you have I don't know if you're in the live, but one of his questions was, is ownership of firearms or any other items for self-preservation an inalienable right? What's your view on that?
I personally believe so. Excuse me. Everything up to tactical nuclear warheads, I've got no problem.
I don't think it's a right. I think it's a...
Well, see, no, see, here's the thing, right? Daya, I'll ask you, do you have a right to life?
Yeah.
You have a right to life?
Dia, it's Dia. I do have a right to life.
Then that includes...
A right to defend myself. Is that where the firearm...
That's where it comes from. Yep.
No, that's
if you need a thermonuclear weapon to defend your life, then I've got no problem with that.
I do have a right to life. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Hang on. Go away.
Can you repeat that? Can you repeat that?
Sorry. If your right to life requires you to have a personal thermonuclear weapon, I don't have a problem with that. If you're no danger to society, then it's not going to be a problem. Now, I recognise that the government certainly does not see it that way, but certainly for self-defence inside the home, absolutely. If somebody crosses the boundary of your home, all their rights are forfeit, as far as I'm concerned.
Okay. Sorry, something weird's happening with my computer. I don't know what I've done. Yeah, anyway, I accidentally showed someone's... I don't know what I've done. But anyway, I don't know how to get rid of that. Sorry. Okay, the next question is, what should the parameters of firearm ownership in Australia be?
I don't have a problem with a license in order to demonstrate that you don't have a criminal history.
Sorry?
I don't have a problem with licensing per se, to say that just like a driver's license, you don't have a criminal history. If I want to be a company director, I need to demonstrate that I'm a suitable, proper person. If if I've been bankrupt, I can't be a company director. So we do have rules around those sorts of things. Once I've demonstrated that I don't have a criminal history and I'm not convicted of any crimes involving drugs or violence, I don't have a problem with anybody holding semi-automatic rifles, semi-automatic pistols, an armoured personnel carrier, an M1 Abrams main battle tank. If you're not a danger to society, those things are not going to be a danger to society. Okay. The issue is when people who shouldn't have them, like criminals, don't bother getting a license. The government doesn't know about them. So there's the check. There's got to be a check and balance, and the government cannot provide the balance. The only thing that can provide the balance is the potential victim. Okay, when somebody comes up to you with evil in their heart, the only thing that can stop them is you. The police are minutes away, and the police insurance, their workplace health and safety, does not like them getting attacked and harmed because the insurance company has to pay out medical costs. So if the police recklessly endanger their safety to help you, and they get injured, they're likely to lose their medical cover. So the police will not be a hero racing to the scene like in the movies or on TV. It ain't Lisa McCune going to come and kick your door in when you're screaming for help. They're much more likely to wait outside until the screaming stops and then come in and draw a chalk outline around your body. That's not a criticism of the police. It's just that's how it is, and we just need to deal with that. Now, someone's asked here, hi, Oscar, will there be a sequel to
what
Dragons
about the question
of the
on the
Coral?
screen?
Yeah, will there be a sequel to Dragons of the Coral Sea? Quite possibly. There's always...
I love this program.
Yeah, I've certainly got more ideas for the adventures of those characters in there. So yes, I've got a couple of books that I've got to finish. There's a sequel to The Kingdom of Saudi Australia, and then there's a sequel to that, and then I've got another book that's non-fiction. If you feel the government isn't trustworthy, how can you put trust in the government to regulate licenses for guns? That's a very good question, and partly why I yeah, that's the other side of it. The simple license, that's it. If you commit a crime, you lose your license. And I fully recognise that the government can easily say being a Christian is a crime and all Christians lose their gun licence, for want of a better expression. I totally get that that's a danger. And in Australia at the moment, that's not as much of a pressure cooker. But in the future, I can see it coming, and that's an interesting thing. Certainly, with our registration and our licensing, see, there's the next Olympic Games. There's no shooting in it. All the target shooting, all the firearm sports in the Olympics are gone. So that means that the genuine reason for those disciplines in Australia is no longer there, and the police can come and knock on their door and say, "We're taking away all of your sporting equipment because you're no longer justified." I think that's, in an ideal world, the government would just regulate licenses and not overstep their authority. But I certainly concede that that's a problem. Do I think the Christchurch shooting was staged? That's a tricky one. There's certainly a lot of questions about it. And there's certainly the government's response has been illuminating. And I love him. Yeah, and I love Imam Tawhidi as well. They're both awesome. Yeah, they actually feature in my next book. The Christchurch shooting. The guy was a radical communist environmentalist. He was, from reading his yes, okay, I'll put my hand up. ASIO, I know you're watching. I have read it. I don't have a copy of the objectionable material, but I did read it before it was decreed objectionable. Okay. So you say you can't pin that on me, although I'm sure you'll pin other stuff on me. The guy was a nutcase. If that was what he read, if that wasn't just written for him by his handlers, he was a left-wing communist radical environmentalist nutter. He's used a lot of very clever ideas and justifications for what he did, but the simple thing that really smells is you only have to look at the response of the government. The response of the government has been exactly what he wanted them to do. So was he an agent of the government? There's a lot of connection there between action and response. You don't bring in laws for draconian. Sorry. You don't bring in tyranny. What you do is you create fear in the population that makes them beg for security, and then you pass laws that remove their freedom. That's how you. This is the. Do you think there's a possibility of another shooting coming in? Oh, absolutely, no doubt about it. Whether it's a random thing from a mentally ill person coming off their meds, or whether it's sorry, just to segue back to what we were talking about energy, right? Those medicines are all derived from chemicals which come from crude oil. So as the crude oil supply reduces, you're going to have more and more people having more difficulty obtaining their medication and going into withdrawal. And the symptoms of withdrawal include homicide and suicide. So just as...
I can't hear you.
Hello?
I can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Hello?
Is that any better? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5,
Hello?
6, 7, 8,
Yes.
9, 10. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I didn't hear the last sentence.
yeah. So those.
Yeah, I had to go all the way to 10.
So all of those people who are currently getting medication are likely to go completely bonkers just when there's other complicated problems happening, and yeah, we're in for a bumpy ride. The next 50 years or so is likely to be unlike anything anyone's ever seen, quite possibly apocalyptic. So yeah, if you just segueing there into climate change. Climate change is the next big religion. As Western society has moved away from God-based religion, climate change has been manufactured to be the next religion, to have people in fear of hellfire and sacrificing for salvation. It's the same thing. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. There was another question that my Facebook person wanted. You're okay to go for the full hour, aren't you? Because we're 45 minutes in.
We're 45 minutes in. I'll do another 15, and then I'm pretty much done. So, yep.
Okay, no worries. What can we do to change anything regarding gun control laws?
Certainly not voting for any of the major parties.
Agree.
Yeah. It's got to be minor parties. And the problem that we've got is, as soon as any minor parties get a little bit of traction, they immediately get infiltrated and railroaded into, like look at One Nation or Fraser Anning. As soon as anybody seems to be competition, boom, they get infiltrated, they get dirt dredged up against them, or they just get bought out and pushed off the rails. So it's really a matter of put not your trust in princes. Politics is not going to solve this thing. It's going to be solved by individual people working at a level that's below local government, volunteering in your community with people that you trust. And that's very difficult to do. It's also very rewarding.
Yes. What about, do you believe that there is an agenda at the moment regarding some sort of genocide towards white people?
Yes, I do. And it's quite simply good business. If you look at the whole situation as I've described, if you're one of these top 5%, okay, you've got billions of dollars tied up in investments around the globe, but the white people have moved away from the mind control of religion and science, and the internet has freed up their minds, and they're starting to get restless because they don't like to be controlled. There's a strong right element that is coming. So what do you do? Going back to the example of the British Empire, right? The British Empire's single most popular method is divide and rule. You identify two tribes in your subject area, you pit them against each other, and they're too busy fighting them against each other to overthrow the occupiers. Northern Ireland in Ireland, Israel in the Middle East, Quebec in Canada, Pakistan in India. Look at what Afghanistan's like now compared to what it was 100 years ago. In the 70s, Iran in the 70s before the Shah, they deliberately did that. The Brits did that to Iran. So that's exactly, and I can look around and see that's exactly what they're fomenting in Melbourne and Sydney. It's a race war, and they're the most profitable ones because it's our tribal instincts that are most easily manipulated. And when it's us against them, it's easy to do. So as those people can be used as scapegoats. All of us can be used as scapegoats in order to keep us fighting amongst ourselves instead of realising how badly we're being screwed over.
Absolutely. I had another question from the same person, but now I can't access it. But let's see if there's anything in the questions. Are you currently working on another book that you're going to release soon?
I'm currently working on 3 books, unfortunately. I'm stressed out of my brain.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So the one that's nearly finished is a sequel to the Kingdom of Saudi Australia called The Tragedy of Saudi Australia, set in the same environment. So it's set in the near future. right-wing parties have seized power in Australia, and foreign fighters have set up a Sharia caliphate in Bankstown and Lakemba and declared their own little state, which has precedent all over the world. It's exactly what Israel, what Israel did in the Middle East. It's similar to what the British did in Northern Ireland and Pakistan. So, like Margaret Atwood said about The Handmaid's Tale, there's nothing in my books that hasn't been done already somewhere in the world. I've just put it into an Australian context. I'm toying with an idea of a sequel to Dragons in the Coral Sea, and I've got another book that I'm partly through called, tentatively titled, You Were Born in a Prison Island on a Tax Farm, How It Happened and What You Can Do About It. So it's basically aimed at people like your audience to explain how it happened, how money is created, how money is manipulated, how our tribalism is manipulated by the media, and hopefully helping people unplug and find some path to freedom.
Okay. We've got the one last question. Was Australia's mandatory gun buyback effective? I don't think it was, but he was not asking me. So what's your opinion on that?
I can prove that it wasn't. First of all, it's not a buyback. The media likes to use this term because it's BB, it's mellifluous, but the simple fact is the government cannot buy something it didn't own in the first place. So it's a confiscation with compensation. It's much more of a mouthful, so that's why they don't call it a confiscation, but that's what it was. The simple fact is there's more law-abiding shooters in Australia now than there were in 1996. It's just that they don't. Absolutely, it's a good thing.
Yeah.
Because the shooting sports are wonderful meditation and relaxation and discipline and self-control. And as you will experience when you bust clays or shoot pistols, it's a fantastic relaxation. It's called aromatherapy for a reason. That smell and the mental discipline. Tribalism is propagated by financial institutions, countries where kind of, but tribalism's in our DNA. It's not something we can turn off, no matter how much people would like to play Messiah. But the gun control in Australia has absolutely been a failure. There's so many shootings these days of criminals shooting themselves. I just can't understand how more people don't realise it. I think we're more likely Huxley's Brave New World than 1984. Oh, yeah, it's a combination of both, and that's really scary. It's a combination of those and V for Vendetta and The Matrix. All of those books were written by very smart people who understood human nature. So the sad fact is we've had the same number of mass shootings after 1996 as we did before. That the data is clear. Gun violence was on an overall downward trend before 1996 that has continued since. So the massive spend did absolutely nothing in terms of statistical results. The question for Oskar and Dia, have you gotten sick of the way mainstream media have treated? Oh, absolutely. If they did the same thing with the Irish or with blacks or with gays, there'd be outrage. But gun owners are the only people who are able to be treated like this. And I've often said that the conservative media the conservative people need to take a leaf out of the gays' book. I know it may seem crazy, but look at what they've achieved in 20 years. Okay, they've now got the police marching in the gay pride parades when the police were the most abuser of their community. Personally, I'm not gay. I accept that some people are. I don't have an issue with it. Whatever you do with yourself is none of my business. But look at what they've achieved in 20 years with a specific strategy that we should emulate if we want to get anywhere. That's...
Neil Erickson actually did a really interesting video on his channel, and in-depth look at all of the things that the police say, advocating for homosexuality, and even like having sex like in a bush or like hidden away from people is legal in Victoria. It's insane. It's insane the state at which the world is at, and the things that are being permitted. It's really disgusting, and that's our police, our moral arbiters.
Once perhaps, but not anymore. Yeah.
All right. Well, you have to go now.
Yeah, I think we've pretty much. Is there anything else in the chat? Just let me see here.
There's no official question. There's this one here from Reg. He's a good friend. He's a good follower. Did you read it? Can you see? Do you want me to read it out to you?
See. Yeah, read it out.
Okay, so one's gun ownership is over, I don't know the number because I'm bad at
10 million.
What's 10 million?
10 million.
The Greens and Gun Control Australia will get the butthurt cream as I'll make beer out of their tears.
Oh,
so
yeah.
is it meant to be 10 million?
Yeah, 10 million. So there's currently over 2, I think it's the exact numbers. That's very true. There's nothing stopping us getting people in high places either. We just need the will to do it and the people to do it. Yeah, 10 million. See, the issue is, right, most of the decisions made by Australian politics is made by people in the inner city. That's just where the votes are. You have to understand that. You look at people, once you get past the Great Dividing Range, there's nobody out there. Yeah, there's 5 million people in Sydney just on its own, right? That's where the votes are. And these people don't care. Okay, where do these people come from? Originally, they came from Europe after World War II, where they were the ones who didn't fight, because the ones who fought died. So they're the ones who stayed home from the war and didn't participate. Then they came to Australia, and then they had children, and they passed on those genetics. Okay. More recently, we got people coming from the Middle East and from Africa, where only the police have guns and usually use those guns to hurt people. So they have a fear of firearms of their own. So anytime they see anything like that, they're never going to vote for more, because they don't understand freedom. They don't understand personal responsibility because they've never had it. They've never had to fight for it. And the plan that the government and the media have will ensure that they don't miss it, because the next generation will grow up and just think it's normal. So long as I've got my little glowing screen, I don't care. And I'll just eat the Soylent Green, and I'll take my universal basic income, and I will just exist in my little house. And if you watch some of those Black Mirror episodes, it's there. So the ones that are alive, the ones who didn't fight because they don't. Yep, that's right. Sounds like the independent man. I don't know what that means. Could be.
You sound like a YouTuber.
I'm looking on. Oh, okay. Well, I hope so. I simply don't have time to look at as much YouTube as I would like to. But
no, that's fair
we're just about on an hour. Is there anything else?
No, it's all good. I'm happy to wrap up. All right. And thank you so much for coming on. It was very nice of you to ask. And I don't usually, I usually invite people, but you were like one of the first to ask, and I was really thrilled because you're so intelligent and you know so many things, and I hope none of us ends up dead after this interview.
All I'm trying to do is help people red pill. That's
yeah.
If you can wake up, you've got to.
Everyone.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you very much. I enjoyed this chat. You've got very good questions, so thank you very much. And maybe we'll do this maybe we'll do this again.
Yeah, we can do it on another subject, because I know you're well and things.
Alrighty, sounds good. Thanks very much, dear.
Okay. All right, thank you. Bye, Carl. Sorry, Oscar. Okay, guys, thanks so much for tuning in. Great work, Dia and Oscar. Yeah. Okay. Just check in with me, everyone. Make sure that I'm still alive as of next week when I'm heading back home. I was going to say something. I forgot what it was. Oh, it's that please my live stream next week will be with an American gender non-conforming individual. I'll have a genuine lefty on my channel for once, an SJW. I met them I didn't meet them, but I've been communicating with them for maybe 3 weeks, and I met them through an American YouTube channel. So I'm not going to name them though, because I don't want them to be scared off or anything. So it's just going to be on the day. So I won't even name them in the title. I'll just be like, anyway, point is that on the day of the actual, I'll still promote the link 3 days prior, like I always do for the Wednesday. Oh yeah, sure, Kenji. Call me after, Kenji, if you really want. But yeah, so anyway, I know that sometimes people get a bit frustrated that I interview random people, but I think it's a good thing that I do that. On Samrat, everyone, Samrat took down Fred Nile in the Christian Democratic part, the CDP. So everyone who's wondering who Samrat is in the chat, he is the man himself who has been making the media rounds. I'm catching up with him tomorrow. We're going to do a Bible study. I might even record our Bible study. I know that sounds really dumb and gay and no one will find that interesting, but yeah. And also, guys, Samrat and my friend Dean McRae from the Liberal Democrats, they're doing a debate on my channel in, like, I'm going to say 3 or 4 weeks. There's going to be 2 debates on my channel. One will be Christopher Shortis versus Kyle Katazi. Kyle Katazi is a well-known lawyer. He does panels at Freedmen conferences, and he's sort of associated with it's probably not supposed to say. He's associated with many different people who are libertarians and right-wingers who are relatively well-known. So I will have him fighting for the side of the Trinity. So the question is the Trinity, I forgot the exact tagline, but basically, is the Trinity real for Christians, or should we believe in God the way Christopher Shortis does, which is more that there is no Father, Son, or Holy Spirit? I mean, that they all exist, but that they are not one God. So the 3 are one and 1 in 3, or is it, or is Jesus the Son of God, and God is the Holy Spirit, but Jesus isn't part of the one? So that's the first debate that's happening on my channel on October 6th, which is a Sunday night special. So that's going to be really, really exciting. I've even got a photo. Do I have a photo? Yeah, I've got a photo of. Yeah, no, I'm going to get a photo of them so that, like, we can do, sorry, I'm talking a bit awkwardly because I'm talking to myself, sort of. Yes, I'm going to get a photo of the 2 of them challenging each other. And then the next debate that I have coming on my channel will be regarding the Samrat. Let's do it, dear. Record the Bible study and make a video from it. Okay. I don't know if maybe we should just do it live, but not on my channel. Maybe on one of your channels. Oh, maybe no, I don't know. We'll see. I don't know. I don't think my audience, because they're not entirely Christian, will find it particularly interesting. But we should record it for sure and just see what we can get out of it. And the other debate is with Samrat, who is in the chat right now, and my friend Dean McRae of the Liberal Democrats, because Samrat was saying really insulting things about the Liberal Democratic Party whilst on my channel not that long ago. And long story short, Dean said, "Oh, I want to debate this guy because, you know, he's definitely paying out my party." Like, all like in jest or humorously done. And so the question, I think, is going to be, does the Liberal Democratic Party have any relevance today, or something like that? And it's not even an attack on them. I like the Liberal Democrats. I'm friends with at least the New South Wales Victorian faction don't like me at all, so that's okay. Does anyone have anything they want me to address or anything before I go? Let's have a look. This is the first time that my guest leaves and I'm sort of left to talk by myself. Does anyone want me to sing? No, I'm kidding. Are you washed in the blood, in the soul-cleansing blood of the Lamb? Are your garments spotless? Are they white as snow? Are you washed in the blood of the Lamb? Have you been to Jesus with the cleansing power? Okay, I'll stop. Let's go. What is my take on Hong Kong? I should do it more often? Do you really think, Margot, that I need to let the guest leave and then I just talk by myself? You have a gorgeous voice. I know. No, I'm kidding. No, the reason why I like singing is because I sang a lot when I went to church. And so me and my sister used to sing. And so we used to sing Away in a Manger and Silent Night during Christmas time. And I would do the high part, and then she'd take the low part, and it was really nice. You tell me if you guys think this is a really bad idea or a good idea. I'm going to do it whether you guys like it or not anyway, but I really want to re-record. Margot already knows because I already told her. I want to re-record I am, you are, we are Australian, and then just do a montage of just different things, like, photos of me with Margot, or photos of like Uluru, or just random crap like that. It's not even going to be a funny video. It's literally just me singing a song, and then you won't see me singing it, and then just like imagery. My daughters used to harmonize. Oh my gosh, Margot, I should sing with your daughters. Milo can sing. Milo cannot sing, excuse me. I have seen him singing and he does not sing well. The multiculturalism song. No. I'm not a fan of multiculturalism. I'm just singing the songs that I like it. Do you know any alt-right songs? Let me think. Peanut butter jelly? No, I don't know. I really don't know any alt-right songs. I am like, sing Jesus Freaks. Is that a song? I've never heard of a song called Jesus Freak. I get knocked down, then I get up again. You're never gonna keep me down. Sing hallelujah, sing. Oh, sorry, I was answering Australian Protectionists Party earlier and then I forgot. Hello, Australian Protectionist Party. You should come on my channel one day, by the way, if you want to, if my channel hasn't been taken down because of the subject we just discussed today. But I'll be on other platforms, including Rational Rice TV. What's your take on Hong Kong? I don't know enough about it to comment, unfortunately. I'm only just getting my head around Brazil. Like, I've purposely just kept away from these subjects because I don't know enough about them to comment. But yeah, I think it's good. I think they're standing up to the Chinese government, and these, they're using Pepe, the frog, and they're obviously adopting some of the things that we've done. So I think it's a good thing that they're standing up to China. But people are dying in China. Like, I just had a meeting. I had a meeting 2 days ago, and in the meeting, this lady was talking about how all these different religions, not just Christianity, you basically are being tortured. They're not killing you, but they're torturing you for your beliefs, and you're not being permitted to express your beliefs. And yeah, some people are even being killed, but it's predominantly torture. Let's see what else. Come to the strippers tomorrow, dear. I don't do that stuff. I did when I was younger. I went to the ones in Crown Casino for a friend's, what do you call it? I forgot what it's called. Hens. So that was interesting. It was funny. Like, they were like dancing on stage. They were pretty hot guys. I just skip videos that don't seem interesting. The question is, do they make government irrelevant? Libertarians suck. I'm not a libertarian. I'm a soft libertarian, but I'm friends with many libertarians. Okay, this has to be shown. I love you, Margaret. You're my best friend in the world. I don't know what shape of you is, so I can't sing it. China isn't this. I'll show this. That's a good comment. I love StreamYard. I love that I can put your comments on screen. God said to Noah, there's gonna be a floody. That's literally the only bit that I know. Okay, let's keep going down because I went all the way back up to see. Yeah, I'm gonna probably go soon, guys. I'm just sort of killing some time. Pepe did nothing wrong. Okay, this I will respond to. I'm a civnat. I'm not. I'm also not an ethno-nationalist. I am literally on the fence on this matter. I even did a video about it called Nationalism versus Civic Nationalism. These are my thoughts. So if you guys want to know what I think, I am very nationalistic somewhat. And then I have certain civic nationalist understandings too. So I'm literally on the fence on that issue. Like, literally don't know where I stand. I'm in talks right now with a person from an American YouTube channel, a very well-known young lady. But at the moment it's on hold because she's been quite busy. And I will ask her all of my questions on nationalism and civic nationalism. And I think it'll be a really good discussion. There'll be a pre-recorded interview that will not be alive, like the one I did with Jessie Lee Peterson. So yeah, so you can say I'm a civnat. I know what that is. I'm not one, but if I was, I'd just say I was. I'd have no issue saying it. Let's have a look. I like how people are disappointed that I'm not as, for example, this one, I'm not as red-pilled as they would like me to be. I can only go at my own pace. But yeah, do I know Blair White? Blair White followed me on Instagram and Twitter some time ago, and she said she'd come on my channel, or he, for those of you who get offended by the fact that I'm using the wrong pronouns. But Blair White has said she'd be on my channel, but it's never actually come to pass. But it's okay. I still love her stuff. I love that she happens to be transgendered and hates children transitioning. I think she speaks a lot of common sense. I love that she's the only transgendered individual speaking out against Jonathan Yaniv, Jessica Yaniv. I think she's, despite her having gender dysphoria, she seems to have a pretty good head on her shoulders, or his shoulders, for those who prefer me to say that. I do not know her though, no. Can you invite her to Sydney? I can't invite someone who doesn't know me. Not really. I could try to get Blair White back on, seeing as that's the topic at the moment. Valerie Marks, Christian nut. I probably am a Christian nationalist. That's the best way to put it. Computer's going off at the moment. All right, let's have a look. Oh, my foot's getting, what do you call it? My foot's getting something or other. What's it called? Pins and needles. Okay, so yeah, I can, regarding my political evolution, I am red-pilled. The thing is, though, I think on a certain group of people, I've already done that live stream. I had Daniel Seacom on, and I had everyone in the chat asking him questions, saying everything that they wanted on the JQ, and I did that, and everyone everyone complimented me at the end, saying that it was a good show and that I was fair, and that I've already explained between the followers and the Torah followers, but anyway, let's continue. So wide on. It's not that easy, dude. Samrat, jeez. What about white ethno state? Yes, Lana. Yeah, that's the one. Let's have a look. What about the white ethno state? I've made enough videos letting everyone know that the predominant majority should be the group that colonized and settled the land and built the infrastructure. I don't know how much more I can say. That doesn't make me a white nationalist. It just makes me someone who believes that the white should be the predominant majority. Okay, let's keep going. I'm not following the conversation because I'm a little behind. What are you jealous about? Oh, Blair White. I don't have power to invite people here. I'm a well-connected young lady. I'm not that well-connected. Let's have a look. Let's have a look what Shooter Down Under wants to say. The problem with ethno-nationalism is that it's centered around the theory of evolution and the teachings of Aleister Crowley. Quite satanic. I didn't know that. I'll have to look into that statement, but I can say that once again, I think that it is unfair that Japan, Sudan, Israel, these countries are allowed to be homogenous, but for whatever reason, countries like Germany, Sweden, the UK, America, Canada, New Zealand, Australia, these countries are forced almost to take on multiculturalism when it was never asked, particularly here in Australia, because I've even written an article. Did I write an article about it? No, it was just a script for a video, but that we were never given a referendum to offer this. Like, this was never offered to the people to vote on. It was just sort of imposed by the Whitlam government. No, yeah, Gough Whitlam. So yeah, I'm definitely against that. I think that like we need to rewind and deport people and stuff, but within reason. Like I also don't want to kick out people who have done all the right things and gotten here legally. But anyway, let's continue on. I have heard of this girl. I have seen some of her videos. I have reached out. No, I haven't reached out yet. No. So that could be an interesting person to get on. I was trying to not be insulting, but it annoys me when people say they are nationalist and libertarian. Oh, okay. Well, I'm not a libertarian, and I'm not a nationalist at all. So, well, sorry, I didn't mean that. I don't identify solely as a nationalist. I'm completely halfway on that issue. So, I don't know who you're referring to. All right, I'm probably gonna go soon. Oswald Mosley. I don't know enough about that person to. I don't know who that is. Is that bad? Kenji, my boyfriend, considering your next stream, if you could get anyone with opposing views to yours, who would you invite? I don't know. Jacqueline Glenn. I would invite Jacqueline Glenn. I don't know if any of you know who she is. She's an atheist YouTuber, has some conservative values, but mostly is very militant in her atheism. I used to hate her, like really dislike her. I never hated her. But now I wouldn't mind having her on. She's actually one of the few lefty type channels that I watch, and I get excited to watch her videos. I disagree with almost everything she says, but I still think she's smart. So there we go. I didn't think I'd have an answer to that, but I do. Yeah, she's very pretty. I actually did a response video to Jacqueline Glenn as well. And I don't know which Carl it was, but someone just gave me a donation from PayPal. Is it Carl Struho that did it? Yes, thank you, Carl, for the donation. That's very sweet. Okay, let's have a look. I don't know what's rubbish, but okay. No worries. You can think what I'm saying is rubbish. That's fine. Oh, I think he's referring to someone else in the chat. I don't know if this is... Even the leftist universities have to accept racial IQ differences. Oh, I'm going to get right off that subject. My testimony of becoming a Christian. I can give you that, but it's not very good. Margaret's been with me when I've gotten teary about this. I get teary a lot. It's really bad. But basically, I was my mother and father were Catholic, and my mother only married him because Catholics marry Catholics usually. She didn't want to marry a man that wasn't a Catholic, and they met and they married being Catholic. But then my father, oddly, who is not a religious man, still to this day, was going to a church, like a very brethren, non-denominational Christian church. And my mother wanted her children to be raised with faith. So we started going to this church. But in the 6 years that we were going to that church, I didn't know this at the time. I found out years later. My mother was challenging them, saying, no, but Mary this and saints that and the Pope this. And she very, very slowly started to realize that what the priests say was actually very different to what the Bible says, and what the catechism says is not even anything. It's just like the church history and different things that people say. It's like not worth going to. So that's the backstory. So then I was raised going to this Christian church, and I believed in God from a very young age. I never questioned it. As I got older, my inquisitiveness and my questioning nature started to arise, and I was like, well, what? Like, I don't think this sounds right, and I don't know why this is that, and why is God so mean in the Old Testament? And there are so many stories in the Old Testament that are quite nasty, like killing the firstborn of every child in Egypt, and the attitudes of certain Christians, and how they tell you that you shouldn't wear makeup, and how just there were so many different things that sort of led me away from Christianity for a while. But it never stopped my belief in God. It never stopped me from knowing there was a God. I always knew there was a God. It wasn't even a question, but I just sort of walked away from it a little bit. And it's only been really, really recently, like the last year, particularly the last 6 months, that I've actually started actively reading the Bible, actively asking questions. And I don't know if any of you follow me on Facebook. I would prefer to do this on Twitter and on Gab, but I just don't get the same engagement as I do on Facebook. So it's usually on Facebook where I ask my audience, what do you think about baptism? Is baptism required to go to heaven, or can it not be? Like, I'm asking a lot more questions than I ever have, because I don't pretend to know everything. I know more than the average person on the Bible, but I don't know more than the Bible believing, everyday memorizing verse Christian. I'm not there yet. So yeah, I've never been baptized as an adult, which I think I'm going to do in the next couple of weeks when I'm back in Victoria. I want to go back to my church. I want to start doing Bible studies with my friend Margaret, who is in the chat, and I'm doing a Bible study tomorrow with Samra and Joel Jamal from the CDP. So it'll be fun. And I just want to learn. I don't have a very good testimony, unfortunately, because I believe very much in Jesus and the sacrifice he made for us. But I don't have that story of, I did sex and drugs and rock and roll, and then one day I turned my back on it and I felt, and I feel the Holy Spirit dwelling within me. I don't have that kind of a story. I don't have that feeling. I don't have that feeling. It's not to say I don't have that supernatural feeling that I'm craving. So yeah, I don't know if that's embarrassing to say out loud, but anyway. So that's that story done. When am I coming home? Margaret, I will be driving home on Tuesday after the Peter Evans event. So I'll be going to the Peter Evans event on Monday with the Liberal Democrats, and then I'll come home because I want to get Peter Evans on my channel. Who else? I think I am, but yeah, I think I am. Jacqueline Glenn is associated with Ray Comfort. They have, I know. Actually, the other day I was driving, Elizabeth, and I've seen that debate already, but I rewatched it because like I just drive with YouTube in the background or Bible stories in the background. I just drive. Sometimes I drive with music in the background, but now it's usually YouTube or the Bible. And I was listening to Jacqueline Glenn and Ray Comfort, and she was very good. I will admit that she was so nasty towards Christians originally, but she's definitely become a lot lighter and a lot more lighthearted. And she can joke with Christians better now. So I quite like that. I love this program, StreamYard. Thank God for StreamYard. I hate so much Streamlabs OBS. This will be my program. All right, let's see. Let's keep going. I'm just going down. Sorry. If anyone thinks I'm ignoring them, I'm just going down because I think some of you guys and I don't put them up. This is interesting. You should study paganism, connect with your European spirit and ancestors. I don't believe you should follow a religion based on your ancestors or on your descendants to be. That's stupid. That makes no sense to me. I think you should base your faith purely and only on a decision that you've made, a logical decision. I know that the God of the Bible exists. I just know it. It's not just about faith or blind faith the way people say. I know there is a God. I know there is. And so the whole paganism thing, I actually think that paganism came first and that then the Catholic Church substituted it. There's actually, I'm going to get that. There's a segment in this trilogy that I have where they talk about it, and I'll try and get the segment up if the person's okay with me doing it. I think he will because I've interviewed him on my channel. His name is Timothy Alberino. They'll be okay with me popping that little segment up about the Catholic Church replacing paganism. So yeah, I'm a Christian, Bible-believing Christian because there is a God. And yeah, you don't base your faith on your heritage. You base your faith on an experience and what makes sense to you. Let's have a look. I'm going to keep going. I am not a Catholic. I thought at all. I'm not a Catholic in any way, shape, or form. I hate Catholicism. I think it's. I know that's a strong statement. I do not like Catholicism. I think all my family in Colombia is Catholic. I love them very much, but Catholicism, not the ideology necessarily, but the institution. It's like a government. It's like a small-bodied government that infiltrates its way into your mind and makes you feel guilty, and things that the priests do to the children, to the nuns. I just don't like it. Having said that, one of my favorite human beings is a Catholic. I don't hate Catholics, but I'm not a fan either. But they're a bigger fish to fry anyway. It's not an issue worth talking about all the time because we're all on the same side regarding this Marxist agenda or the globalist agenda. So conservatives need to stick together despite my disapproval of the Catholic faith. Let's keep going. Your testimony is still very cool. It's not. I have a really shitty testimony, Catholic background, etc. I have a similar testimony with the Anglican Church and the Charismatic Church. Never heard of that. You'll have to let me know about that. There are good and bad doctrines in both. Of course, even in my Christianity and my faith, I'm noticing things in my own churches and stuff that I'm not sure about. But not my church. My church has actually said nothing that I disagree with to date, and they're Baptists. I'm not a Baptist, not officially. I could be. It wouldn't bother me to say that, but I prefer to say non-denominational. All right, let's keep going down. Ancestor veneration is very important. What is a tree without roots? I'm an individualist. I have my own thoughts. So that's that. Samrat, you have Ricardo's book like right there. I do. He just gave it to me yesterday. We had a meeting. Look, it says here, for Claudia, best wishes, Ricardo Zimmerman. He wants me to read it. The future of Australia lies with this man. Okay, hang on. Let me keep going down. What are your thoughts on the Pope? He's a false prophet. He's an evil man. I am ashamed that he's Latin. He's Latino. I think he's more of an environmentalist. The only thing I like about the current Pope is that he is anti-abortion. Literally, that's the only good thing about him. He snubs Israel, which you guys would probably think so, but he's not a good person. He's evil. Kind of tooth whitener. Actually, I went to Thailand like 6-7 years ago, and there was Zoom. It's what you'd call Zoom now. So that's what that is. I don't know who Pastor Anderson is. Adam and Eve. What is this about? Adam and Eve had an experience. A snake talked to them. They listened to their experience instead of God's word. No, I'm referring to the Holy Spirit. I'm referring that I don't feel the Holy Spirit supernaturally in me. When I have felt that, it's usually been like with other people praying, and like you can really feel something stirring. I've felt it twice ever in my life. I felt that supernatural feeling. Otherwise, I haven't really felt it. But I've been talking to a lot of Christians up here in New South Wales, and they all say the same thing. And it's like, don't look for a feeling. Just keep doing what you're doing. Keep reading the Bible, and eventually your relationship with Christ will grow. So I'm looking for something that might not even be a thing. And so I need to stop doing that. Let's see what else. Have a good day, dear. Tell Diane we love her. No worries. Diane is awesome. She's one of my most favorite friends. She's just got a good heart. Margot, if you want his book, you can borrow it after me. Or if you like want a copy to hold on to, I can get him to send me another one, and then I can give that to you. Actually, Sputnik, he's Argentinian. From Argentina. All right. Benjamin Molesworth. The key to Bible study is letting God interpret the Bible for himself. You do that by comparing how the Bible uses words instead of using Bible dictionaries. I've never used a Bible dictionary. But I do agree with you. But I also find it interesting that there are certain parts of the Bible that aren't meant to be there, like Mark 16:16, which I just found out about. And also there are books in the Bible that used to be in the Bible that are no longer there, like the Book of Enoch. That was in the Bible for hundreds and hundreds of years, and then it was taken out because it seemed too far-fetched. The thing is, though, that in the current Bible, God walked with Enoch. They walked together. So he had a pivotal role in being like a key prophet. And then all you get is that he walked with God, and then he ascended into heaven without dying. That's the only two things you get about Enoch in the current Bible. So it makes sense that there is a book of Enoch. I've actually interviewed an expert on the subject. Actually, I interviewed the expert on angels and humans copulating, creating the giants, but this same individual knows all about the book of Enoch and the book of giants. And so the extra biblical texts revealing, not the Gnostic Gospels. They're not worth looking at. Let's keep going. Hillsong, they're enablers of the non-heteronormative agenda. So yeah, negative opinion of them. But definitely you can listen to their songs, I suppose, if you want to worship God. The music is still good. Thanks, beautiful. I will buy myself a copy eventually. I'm terrible at borrowing books. I don't return them. I'll see if he will send you one. Do you want a signed copy? I know you do. I'll see if he'll send one. Dalai Lama was spot on saying Europe for the European tribe. Yes, he was. That's absolutely accurate. This is where I am very nationalistic. I will always say nationalistic and not I am a nationalist. I am very nationalistic. Do I know much about the Book of Enoch? The thing is, the Book of Enoch is 3 hours long. So no, to answer that question, honestly. But there is an amazing channel called Think About It. Subscribe to them now. Think About It. They are a Christian channel and very much into the Book of Enoch as revelation. Yeah, so just watch their stuff. They talk a lot about end times. I can't watch those videos. It's very depressing talking about end times, but a lot of their other videos are really, really great. So that's where I get a lot of my Enoch information. I also get it from a channel called Gen 6, Genesis 6, so Gen 6 Productions. Let's have a look. So Benjamin Molesworth says that it isn't true that Mark 16:16 is supposed to be there. It is supposed to be there. They found an older manuscript which included it. Dude, take this up with Kyle Katarzi. I don't even know. My point was, yeah, I don't know. My point is that I'm getting all this new information as a somewhat, I'm not even a new Christian, but as a somewhat more trying to figure out my research more, and I'm just getting confused by all these things. That's not meant to be there. That is meant to be there. That shouldn't have been there. That doesn't count. Apparently the story about let he who was without sin cast the first stone, that's not meant to be there. That's not canon. And I'm like, oh, okay. So I'm finding out all this stuff and I don't know what to believe. It's really annoying. Anyway, so let's keep going. Let's have a look at Elizabeth. Elizabeth, you're new to my channel, but I like you. You seem like a good girl. Yep, it's really sad how Catholicism has deceived so many people, but unfortunately that is how the devil works. I'm so glad you are reading the Bible for yourself. Yeah, it's taken a couple of years because I've always sort of gone off people that I rely on, telling me things, but now I'm doing it on my own. She wants a signed copy. Do I have an Aussie flag? Nope. I used to have a badge. I used to have a pin. The pin had the Colombian flag, the Spanish flag, and the Aussie flag. Didn't even have it made. Me and my sister were walking around Spain, walked into a piercing store because my sister got like that bit of her ear pierced. And then there were two of them, randomly, with the Australian flag, the Colombian flag, and the Spanish flag. And well, obviously we wore them. I don't know where it is now, but I have that. Charismatic, but also non-denominational. That's me, Samrat. Samrat, are you falling in love with me? You better get in line. I have like 6 boyfriends already. Let's have a look. Do you believe in the Trinity? Okay, I have a question to ask everyone in the audience. Do you believe, yes or no, that you need the Trinity to be a genuine Christian? Because some people tend to think that if you don't believe in the Trinity, you're basically a cultist Christian. I was speaking to James Fox Higgins earlier, and he's a little bit more agnostic on that view. I think I agree. I think I'm agnostic on that view. But anyway, let's keep going. SD. The Gnostic Gospels and Dead Sea Scrolls contributed a lot to the development of early primitive Christianity. How can you dismiss it all? I don't. So I accept certain books, like the Book of Lamech, the Book of Jasher, the Book of Enoch. But the Gnostic Gospels, as far as I'm aware, and again, I'm basing this off other people, I haven't really looked into it personally, but the Gnostic Gospels, as far as my understanding, is can't be corroborated how authentic it is. And so that's a bother. Like, you want to know for a fact that it was written by people who observed the times, the moment, and who were part of Jesus's discipleship or circle. And so I think that's important. So I think that's why I dismiss them. The Book of Giants was part of the Dead Sea Scrolls. I believe that. Yeah. The Book of Enoch, I think, is the one that isn't. The Book of Jubilees as well is also one that I think is important to read as an extra biblical text. But the Gnostic ones, I'm pretty sure, have been dismissed by most Christian scholars. That's what I base it on, I think. But I should probably do a video on that and do my own research. So that's more pending. Okay, how about this? Exactly, don't worry about it. It is supposed to be there. Ignore those that try to remove scripture. The Gnostics did it in the 1st century. The Bible we have is accurate. See, I don't know. I think you're right. But apparently there are verses that are not meant to be there. You saying it, Benjamin, doesn't make it so. Do you know what I mean? Like I have to do that research on my own as well. Like, you saying it could very well be true, but it's not sufficient, if that makes sense. Okay, I'm gonna keep going down. Do you wear a MAGA hat? Only when I'm given one. So when I go out to rallies, I'm going to a rally this Saturday in New South Wales. They're doing this huge thing with they're protesting the premier of the state for the 9-month abortion ban. So if anyone has a hat, I always borrow the hat for a quick second. I take a photo and then I give it back. I don't own one though, but I do love a MAGA hat. Christians need to take the scriptures less literally. The Trinity not vitally important. Christ is what's important. So hence why I think at the moment I'm agnostic on this view. Which in the views of some would make me technically not a Christian. Which I don't think is fair to say. Ask not to make your country great again, but to ask how you can make our best ally great. That's a nice line. What do you think of churches that speak in tongues, like Revival Church in Box Hill? This church believes you have not received the Holy Spirit till you can speak in tongues. In Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, when God or Jesus sent out the disciples who were speaking in tongues, what they were actually doing was speaking in other languages. So just say that they only spoke Aramaic. If they only spoke Aramaic but they wandered into Ethiopia, then they could all of a sudden communicate what Jesus had done for them by the atonement and the sacrifice into ascending into heaven. They could do that because they were gifted with that ability. So the whole speaking tongues thing, as far as I'm concerned, is BS. At the same time, I've done an alpha course, and the church that I did it at was Pentecostal, and they did do the speaking in tongues, but they rarely did it. Like, it was done very respectfully. So when they did it, it wasn't that ridiculous, whereas I have seen it be ridiculous. and they basically said a story about how this woman was feeling like crap or something, and that this one person said something, and that what she actually said was something in Russian. So I can't counteract that experience. I don't know how to counter that and say, well, actually, that was garbage. It's all BS. I don't know how to explain that. But as far as I'm concerned, it's retarded. Dear, Joel and I will answer your questions. Excuse me, Samrat. No offense. I'm like 10 years older than you. You know what I'll do? I'll write down all these questions and we can study them together. I know you're not meaning to be rude at all. I know you're not meaning to be rude, and I'm not taking it that way. I'm doing it with a smile. But you're like, what, 19? You can't have that much knowledge. But if you do, I'm pleased for you. That's really good that you do. Okay. Sorry, I didn't mean that rudely, Summer. I'm excited to see you tomorrow. It'll be fun. And I will bring my tripod. Actually, this is what I'll bring. This is how I've been recording my videos lately. I don't usually have this kind of a camera. So the quality won't be what it usually is because I'm on the road. All right. The crossover of Gnosticism and Alexandrian Neoplatonism in late antiquity, Zoroastrianism, and Syrian agnosticism. I don't really know what you're referring to. Would you agree that Christianity is the original globalism? I suppose you could word it that way. I know what you mean by that. You're probably meaning it in a negative way, but if I twist that and just say that it's like the only way to heaven is through the blood of Christ, only through Jesus Christ, and only through his atonement can we find salvation. And the only way to do that is to proselytize. And the only way to proselytize is to go and baptize. There's a Bible verse actually that I can share. Hang on. Let me just get it up. Sent it to someone. Oh, I sent it to James Hoxie actually. So let me find that. Where is it? Here we go. Let me just bring it up. It was a long conversation. Go therefore and make disciples of all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father, the Son, and of the Holy Spirit, teaching them to observe all that I have commanded you, and behold, end of the age. Matthew chapter 28, verses 19 to 20, English Standard Version. So we are called, they were called in that era to go and baptize in the name of the Holy Spirit, the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. Like, go, tell everyone, tell everyone about this, or, suffer the eternal damnation. So yeah, I suppose it is the original globalism, but there's no better type, like Christian supremacy for me all the way. This may be a random question, but asking for myself, if you had a son and you were a Christian, would it be weird to call him a Christian? Seriously thinking for my new bud. You can raise your child how you choose, hopefully within a perfectly lawful, moral manner. But if you want to raise your child a Christian, there's nothing wrong with that. And then he will make the choice later in life whether he chooses to continue that path, as I have done. I don't know what you're referring to now, Samara. Oh, cute. I think that's perfectly fine. I'm not sure what you're referring to, but you're probably responding to someone in the chat. Elizabeth. Yep, believing in the Trinity is pretty crucial to the Christian set of beliefs. The Bible speaks of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit in quite a few verses. Well, as I just said, this particular verse that I just read says, baptizing them in the name of the Father, the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. It says to baptize them in the name of three, but it doesn't say that the three happen to be one, at least not in that particular verse. But in saying that, I know that there are Bible verses that maybe are a little clearer on that. But that's a Bible verse that many people cite to prove the Trinity, as in to prove that they are one, but that verse only lists it. It doesn't affirm it. Okay, so let's keep going. Romans teaches how to be a Christian. Ephesians teaches what a Christian must do. Tongues isn't mentioned. Exactly. We are in agreement. Dear, the question perhaps rather than Trinity is Jesus God? I lean more to that he is. I believe Jesus is God because in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was God, and the Word was with God. The Word was God. The Word is Jesus. Would I ever date a lefty? The thought of that scares the hell out of me. I can't imagine anything more disgusting. I would rather shove nails in my eyes. Depends how left. Dear, do you subscribe to a docetic belief that Jesus was a theandric being or merely a divine hypostasis? I don't know what that means. Margot, I was actually thinking maybe Summer and Dia Beltran would make a good couple until I found out the age difference. Yeah, he's a child. But he's really cute. That's a stupid question. I've dated black people, FYI, and no, Kwaku was not one of them. When I say black, I mean like Mauritian. Okay, cool. That's all the questions. Yeah, I haven't had dinner yet, so yeah, I'll record my Bible study tomorrow with Samra and Joel, and then yeah. Yeah, I think I would like someone, like I happen to be Latina, so I should probably, by the nationalistic perspective, date a Latino. And I am attracted to Latin people. I think Enrique Iglesias is pretty hot. But I wouldn't oppose someone with blonde hair, blue eyes, and I wouldn't oppose someone like Mauritian who is like brown and has people are good looking. Well, I answered it. Whether I think it's a good question or not is irrelevant. I gave it fair game. I put it up on the screen, and I responded. Love your honesty. It's so refreshing. Thank you. No more questions? No? Hang on, where am I going? Am I going here? There was a judge in Melbourne, I think, who calculated appropriate age difference as half plus 7. I would like the guy to be 3 to 4 to 5 years older. It's like 35, 36, 37. Thanks. That's nice of you to say. I appreciate that. That's very kind. Generally, you have a tribal in-group preference. I don't think you're talking to me. You're talking to someone else. Nationalistic, shouldn't he be Australian? I don't know. What if I fall in love with a man from France? That's a stupid thing to say. What if I fall in love with a Colombian from Colombia? Samra, my eggs are pretty dusty. Docetic, Jesus was a real man on earth. Jesus was a real man on earth, but he was, I believe, also God. But again, I'm not positive about this. I'm trying to be a little bit more agnostic on this view. I don't know what is, for fuck's sake, what specifically? I said a lot in that moment. So if a guy is 30, half is 15 plus 7.22. So far, a 30-year-old guy, a girl less than 22 is inappropriate. I'm not following. Oh, Lord. You guys are really hung up on this. I am born in Australia. I would hope the man that I marry is an Australian. I'm simply saying you can't control who you fall in love with. What if he's from Spain? What if he's French? No, Jesus did not have any children. That's an offensive statement and blasphemous in many, many different ways. I don't know who I'll fall in love with. I don't know how to answer that question. Might even fall in love with a woman. No, that's a joke. Relax. Read John over and over. Yes, the Gospel of John. I am reading it. I'm reading many things at the moment, but what I really love is the story of Joseph. This is the coat of many colors. This is my favorite Bible story of all time. There's even a show from Hanna-Barbera cartoons that I used to watch when I was little with my sister and my brother and all my cousins, and it was about it's just the Bible story. And then you have the story of Joseph and his full brother Benjamin, and then you have the older 10 half brothers from a different mum. They don't give you those details because it's a kid's cartoon, but is to watch that and Esther. Esther's my other favorite Bible story, again and again, like just the animated version. So reading it, like driving around New South Wales and hearing the Bible story is really nice. I really like it. It just makes me happy. Like, I love hearing the story of Joseph because to me, I don't know why I'm so excited talking about Joseph, but the story of Joseph is really good. I'll tell you why. These are things that I figured out. It's not even like an amazing discovery. I'm not like the most intelligent person on earth thinking about this, but there's two factors. There's two factors about the story of Joseph. First of all, his brothers are jealous, right? That the father, his father, who was Israel, that's his name, favors him too much, and it really bothers them. So they chuck him down a well, and then they end up selling him to Midianites, and the Midianites sell him to Egyptians, and so he becomes part of the slave trade, I suppose you could say. But anyway, what I like about the story of Joseph is how he continued to succeed despite all the despite all the adversity that was put against him. He became the head of a household, and then this stupid bitch of a woman decided that Potiphar's wife decided she would try to seduce him, and he was like, I'm not going to be seduced by you. And then he wasn't seduced by her, and because she was rejected, she lied. And how common is that today with women lying, saying, oh, this man tried to rape me, blah, blah. So she's like telling her husband, oh, he tried to sexually be on me, or whatever the word is. Anyway, and so then he was thrown into prison. And God had given Joseph the ability to translate dreams. And so he became well known for that, and he was let out of prison because of different reasons. I'm obviously really condensing the story. And Pharaoh loved Joseph. Pharaoh thought, wow, you're really smart, and you're wise, and you're awesome. But what I love about the story of Joseph is that his brothers come back, and he recognizes his brothers, and it had been foretold previously in his dreams that the 10 stars would bow down to him. I love that story because the fact that 10 stars are bowing down to him means that they were bowing down to Joseph, and Joseph's like, well, Joseph's brothers were like, we're not going to bow down to you. How dare you suggest such a thing? That's so arrogant. But then all this time later, in his 30s, how prophetic it is that they're bowing down to him, and they're like, we need food, we need his money, and they don't recognize that that's their brother. By the end of the story, Joseph is reunited with his brothers, and they were like, oh my gosh, like you're our brother, and then he's embracing them all. And I think that's a testament to what God does. Like here on earth, like when you have a boyfriend and you break up, or you have a divorce, or a family member dies, that's all loss. There's no closure. Closure is not enough. God, what he does is better than closure. He gives us reunion. You get to be back. You get to sort of be it's a reunion. Like that's so much better than closure. He was reunited with his father. He was reunited with his brothers. He was reunited with his full brother, Benjamin. Like reunion is so much better than closure. I just thought that was really nice, how the story of Joseph really emphasizes this reunion topic, like lots of separation, and then you feel complete again. Anyway, I love the story of Joseph. It's my favorite. I don't really know what you guys are talking about. Sorry, I'm just talking to talk, but you guys are probably not even listening to me anymore. Talking about other things. I love the story of Esther and Joseph. Oh, I thought you were going to say you like different stories. Vegetalis does a beautiful adaptation of Esther. Good to know. Yeah, Esther's my favorite Cinderella story. Did Jesus have any physical children? I remember watching something a long time ago suggesting he didn't. I already said he didn't. If Jesus had sex, then that takes away everything to do with him and his holy being. There's no way he could have done that. Like, that's just offensive. Not like I'm not offended. What I mean is technically that's an offensive statement, because Jesus did not succumb to carnal lusts. We are flawed. We succumb to carnal lusts. Jesus did not. He was perfect. The devil tried to tempt him in the desert, and he didn't fall. So Jesus did not have children. I already said that before. What about Jericho? Yeah, that's a good story too. Not my favorite. Yeah, I love Joseph. That's a good story. I sit on the fence. Okay. I think I'm gonna go, guys. Thanks so much for tuning in. I think I'm releasing a video at the end of the week. The video is about the what's her name? Thanks, Tom Evans. I'm gonna put this on the screen because it's worth putting on the screen. Just kidding. I'm not that arrogant. I'm releasing a video on the Kenyan girl who thinks Australia is racist. I forgot her name. Adut, the supermodel. I'm doing a video on that. But so just be aware that it's not. I'm not in my normal surroundings, so it won't sound as good. Anyway, bye guys. Love you all. Thank you for tuning in. God bless you.